Okay, so the final video in this section, and I'll run through this pretty much in its entirety just to recap everything we've done in the previous 3 or 4 videos. So now the video is playing, and when I double click, it creates a post-it as previously. Now the time is in a more human readable format, minutes and seconds. And if I double click and create a new one, it will notice it collapses the previous one. So it collapses the previous one every time I create a new one, which might be quite useful when you are creating lots and lots of notes. Okay, so like the previous examples, this is relying upon functions we've used elsewhere or created elsewhere, maybe amending them slightly. And the style hasn't really changed in that we've floated the left ID, and we've given it a width of 40%. We've set 100% width for the video within that left ID. And then the div ID right, floated left again with 60%, background color, given a minimum height so that it fills the screen. Variables declared at the start. We've declared time, which relates to the function listening for play time, and the variable I equaling 0, so that every time we create a new post-it, it's got a unique identifier, which we need inside of the HTML, which runs from here to there pretty much. It's not that many lines. The div ID left, so we create a div element, it's called left. Inside of it's the video, that's called player. Controls and autoplay setup, the source of the video, H2 heading, a paragraph, closing the left div, the right div, which is the target, closing the body, and then the start of the script. So the log time function, which is used to update the time variable so we can output it. The create new post-it, which changes. In previous versions, we have used time, the click time, basically just finding out the time, putting it to 2 decimal places, and then basically outputting what we get. Now, making it more human readable, what we're going to do is we get that variable click time, which puts it to 2 decimal places, but then we're going to separate it out into minutes and seconds. And the way we do this, we create a variable called minutes, and using the math class and the method within math called floor, which rounds down to the nearest, we take the time and we divide it by 60, and that will always give us seconds in minutes. So until it equals a full minute, it will be rounded down. Therefore, if it's not over a minute, then it will always read 0, so on and so forth. In seconds, we then take the remainder, basically. So we take time, and then we take away the minutes times 60. So essentially, we're saying how many seconds have been used up by the minutes in the minutes variable, and then take those seconds off. So if 1 minute's being used, then 60 seconds are to be taken from the time, and therefore we will have the remainder. This is then used later on within the same function. I've created a new property for window bar, giving it a text content, and that's going to equal the minutes plus a colon, which is a string, and this is mixing up variable types, which is what JavaScript's very useful for. Actually, it's not so strict. With seconds, and again, the seconds have been set to 0 decimal places, so we've just got whole seconds. That sorts out the time, and the only thing we really need to do then is respond to adding a new post-it. So what I've done is we've added in a little bit of logic before the end of the create PostIt function. The create PostIt function ends here, just after the line that makes I bigger. And essentially this condition is based upon the hide and reveal functions. So we know what I is, and if it's greater than 0, then a PostIt exists. What we do is we take that number, store it in a variable called j, but we take that number and we take 1 off of it. So if we've clicked and created our second post, then that ID would be number 1, but the first ID would be 0. So if we take number 1 and then take 1 away from it, we've got 0. So it should give us an accurate reference to the previous PostIt. We then take that number, which is making all of this work, add it into the variable for post ID. So we just a bit of string manipulation. We take the string PostIt, which is used in the identifier names as a convention. We add the number stored in J, and then that creates the ID for reference. Little console log there just to check that it's doing what I've asked it to do. Then we're creating a variable to hold the PostIt bar that we're targeting. Because bearing in mind, we've just created a new PostIt bar, so we're having to do a little bit of calculation to target the one that's already been created. So we access the document. We then find the element by ID. So we're looking for PostIt bar, the first part of the ID, and then add J. So it would say PostIt bar 0, PostIt bar 1, or PostIt bar 2. We then need to know the children of the post. So post child still exists. Take the document, get element by ID, find the post, find out the children that exist, and then essentially taking the second element, or the second child element of the PostIt, we affect its display to none. So basically we collapse it. We also need to handle the fact that if that has been collapsed, we should be removing the event listener, or adding the event listener for reveal post. So post bar, add event listener, click and reveal post. And that will allow us to then click on it again to reveal it. So all of this is within the create PostIt function. As I say, it's just repurposing information from within the hide post function and the reveal post function. That's the end of this series at this point. So when the video plays, as you see the playhead there, so 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and I create a new one. Maybe move the playhead on a little bit. That creates a 113 and it collapses the first one, and then I create a new one, 116, and it collapses the second one.